Hello there, I'm Janetta and thanks for joining me. We will be looking at a drawing of my Patreon coloring sheet for March. It's called Daisies on Wood Grain. You can see I've already got a pencil sketch laid down. Sorry there isn't any video of that. I need to remember to make sure that the camera is actually recording. You can see I'm starting out with some simple lines, sort of a U or V shape for the petals around an oval center. Naturally, the center would be more circle-like for daisies, but because we're looking at it from the side, from an angle, it gets a little foreshortened. You can see that right here in this petal as well. It's a bit squattier than what an actual daisy petal is, because we're looking at it from an end point, so you're not seeing the petal in its full length, and that's called foreshortening. I'm also able to add a folding to the petals, sort of a curling aspect with the edges coming up, just by adding that extra little line there. Those will become a little bit more defined as we move into shading and darkening some line quality. I really like working with subjects from nature. You get a lot of different shapes and elements that you learn to recognize not as a whole. You learn to recognize the pieces that go together to make up the object that you're drawing. Sort of a combination of lines and shapes that we're putting together that our eyes eventually recognize as the object that we're used to seeing. Just doing some more petals, some more folding, giving you that realistic look. Here you see going underneath the other flower, and that's important when you're working on drawing. You want to create depth of field, what's in front of something else. It also makes for a more interesting composition to have your lines broken and intersected as well. Kind of sped it up just a little bit through certain areas where I'm repeating a lot of the same motions and lines, just so this doesn't become too boring. I want to thank everyone for pledging. Your support means that I might actually be successful with this as a full-time career. I'm looking forward to that. There's a leaf that I'm putting in. One thing that was missed because the pencil drawing part of the video not coming through was the fact that of placing the stems. You want to draw through things. Of course you can't see it because of the pencil sketch, and I've probably erased them already, but I want to make sure that all of those stems are coming from the center of that flower, from the underneath side, as if it doesn't look like the stem's just floating out there in the middle of nowhere. So you want to make sure that you put your pencil in the center of that flower and draw it out from there. Even if you go back and erase and you're drawing through certain things, and you do that. So I've got the daisies all laid out, and I'm adding a frame to it. You'll notice that the daisies are breaking the picture frame, and that also adds interest to your drawings. When you keep things boxed in, sometimes it can become boring, but if you just sort of break that picture plane, excuse me, it just adds a more visually pleasing aspect to your drawings and your compositions. I was using a brush pen there. It's got a bit of a wider look to it. Here I am putting in the wood grain. Just wanted to make sure those panels lined up. I really love the detail that you can put in with wood grain. As the rings of the trees create the patterns in weathered wood, and it really starts to show as wood is left outside or it's been in the elements, and you can just see all these lovely patterns. They're very organic lines, very free-flowing, and you can just sort of use your imagination with that. There's nothing that you need to look at to copy this. You can make this pattern up out of your own head. Circular patterns where you see where maybe a branch was attached to the tree at that point before it went through the sawmill. I get a bit shaky sometimes, unfortunately. My tripod was just a little too close to my desk. Here I am adding some texture to the center of the flower. You don't necessarily have to fill in the whole of an area to give it that texture. Just a few portions of it gives it that implied texture, and leaving a blank space is also a way to create interest and in your drawings. Here I'm working on really rounding out the parts of the flower, making certain things that are in front that I want to bring to the front pop out by adding a darker line around them and a little bit of shading. Here underneath, you see that center of that flower is pushed up more than the petals, just by that darker line that I've put around it. And with these quick little lines here, you can see the texture and the veining of the petals, but it also helps, more shaking, I'm sorry. It also helps define the shape of it as well. There's a certain curve or cupping of the petals, and by giving those wispy lines, you not only are adding the texture of them, but also helping define the shape. Here we've got the petals sort of draping over the edge of the picture frame. Once again, it adds visual interest. Those are kind of cupping up as if the frame is pushing the daisies in some way. We've got another foreshortened petal right there. It's really been pushed up by the picture frame. So you draw it, a lot smaller than you do the other ones. And just continuing to add a shadow detail. Here the petals are laying over excuse me, the edge of the leaf from the stem, and so by darkening that line, you you give it that depth of field as what's laying on top of what item, what element. I really love working in pen and ink. I think you can add so much detail, and in my usual pen and ink drawings I would add much more detail than I am for this coloring page, but it's just taking it a step further. I'm working with micron pens. They are some of my favorites. I've got some other ones that I love, but they're kind of my go-to. Here we are. I've done a bunch more of the shading and the line quality in areas. I didn't want this video to become too boring, watching the same thing over and over again. But I've just gone in and darkened some areas. You can see on the left it gets very, very dark, and that helps weight the drawing. When I'm done, I scan. I know some people don't like to use scanners. They prefer to take pictures, but for me and my drawings, I just enjoy using the scanner much more. I can get the details that I want from my drawings digitally copied. And here I am using Inkscape. It is a free open source graphic design program, much like Illustrator. There's my coffee, always my coffee. And here's the finished printout. I was pretty happy with how my first coloring page came out. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you enjoy coloring it. If you have any suggestions, have any subjects that you would like to see in a coloring page, just be sure and leave it in the comments below. But at this point I was kind of tired. My eyes were tired. It was getting late. My coffee was empty, and it was time to sit back and get ready for the evening. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for pledging. Be sure to follow me on all of my other social media platforms, and I look forward